was impressive. An entire offseason of hand-wringing, a lot of news, a lot of drama, whichever way you want to characterize it. There's a long wait between games in Pennsylvania for the 49ers, right? The NFC Championship game in Philadelphia, Eastern Pennsylvania on January 29th. And now today, September 10th, another game in Pennsylvania. Now the western side of the state in Pittsburgh, the 49ers back at it in real football for the first time since that deflating NFC title loss. And they just went out and kicked the Steelers' ass. 30-7. Now remember all the talk heading into this game. The talk about the Steelers. There was a lot of hype about Pittsburgh, right? 5 possessions, 5 touchdowns for Kenny Pickett and the first team offense. Well, guess what happened today? 5 possessions, 5 3-and-outs. To me, this right here. Pittsburgh didn't attain positive yardage until almost halftime. This was like high school or college football level domination. You don't see an NFL team do what the 49ers did to the Steelers for 29 plus minutes of this football game. And then finally, by the skin of their teeth, the Steelers got a first down. That first big play got them going a little bit. Najee Harris, Bay Area native, ran to the outside, and the Steelers got a very favorable call when Deommodore Lenoir was flagged for the unnecessary roughness. I think without that, the Steelers don't score in the first half, and who knows what happens the rest of the game, because the only Steelers points in this football game came on that drive at the end of the first half. It obviously finished 30-7. The 49ers defense, number 1 in the league last season, I think has a good chance to remain that way in 2023. That was one of the big questions, right, under new defensive coordinator Steve Wilks. We're going to take a look at all the blitzing numbers as this week progresses. I'm going to get the blitz rates, and we'll start to see trends. But, I noticed, for example, on the interception thrown by Kenny Pickett to Charvarius Ward, 49ers blitzed. Fred Warner was in on a blitz. I know Warner had, 2-3 sacks last season. D'Amico Ryans started being more aggressive as time went along. In 2021, D'Amico Ryans was more aggressive as time went along. But Steve Wilks is a tried and true blitzer. Robert Saleh, D'Amico Ryans, even when they upped their blitz rates, in the grand scheme of things, they weren't sending extra pressure all too much. Steve Wilks at previous stops has sent extra pressure, and he has a documented history of doing so. So he sends Fred Warner. Eric Armstead just dominates 2 guys on the inside. Armstead gets his long arm up, and Kenny Pickett, who was sped up from the very start of this game. Very first possession, Drake Jackson sack. Kenny Pickett sped up, forces a pass toward the sideline toward Deontay Johnson. Charvarius Ward essentially ran the route for him. Interception for the 49ers. They should have had another pick, but Fred Warner dropped one about a possession or 2 later. When I say sped up, well, that just means that the quarterback's internal clock isn't exactly calibrated to what it should be. He has to hurry a little bit because he hears footsteps coming. And the 49ers, well, that defensive line got after him from the very, very start of this game. The first sack for Drake Jackson, and he had 3 today, by the way. The first sack came on a 4-man rush. They didn't blitz on that one. And it was after Eric Armstead had ripped through the line. By the way, side note, very related. Anybody who ever says anything about Eric Armstead not being a good football player should be disqualified about talking about professional football. Go talk about high school or college football, because Eric Armstead, every single time that he's out there and you seriously watch the game, you seriously watch the damage that this guy does up front. It's night and day, the difference between having Eric Armstead out there and not having him out there. And I get that some people are fixated by box scores and sack counts, but I like actual facts and tape. I like watching the actual game. And today, Eric Armstead had an impact on so many of the negative plays generated by the 49ers defense. And this wasn't a bad interior Pittsburgh offensive line. I thought that was the strength of this offensive line. I don't think their tackles are any good. I thought that they rebuilt the interior O-line. And those guys, solid veterans. Eric Armstead made them look foolish on many snaps today. Anyway, he set the table for Drake Jackson on that first sack, and the 49ers defense was rolling. But, we could talk all day about Pittsburgh not having positive yardage until halftime, not being able to establish a run game, not being able to protect the quarterback. They dedicated so much in terms of blocking resources against Nick Bosa that they weren't able to really hold off anybody else. We can talk all day about that side of the ball, but as I said earlier, maybe I'm burying the lead if I don't mention this fairly early on. Brock Purdy is back. I mean, here, box score, I know he was like 10 of 12 at one point early on. Probably had more incompletions by the end since the 49ers slowed down a little bit in the second half. 19 of 29, 220 yards, 111 rating. Brock Purdy becomes the first quarterback in NFL history to log a rating of 95 or better in his first 6 regular season starts. Even more impressively than that, the 49ers are 9-0 in every game that Brock Purdy has started and not finished with a snapped elbow. So the only time they've lost when Brock Purdy has been out on that field as the starting quarterback was the NFC Championship game. So when Brock Purdy has finished the game with his elbow intact, the 49ers have won, period. 9-0. That's a fairly large sample at this point. They're going to be favored against the Rams, although did you see the Rams? They beat the Seahawks 30-13 up in Seattle. I can't wait to see the tape of that game. No Cooper Kupp. Matthew Stafford throwing to some randos at wide receiver, but he made it work. But it's not going to be as easy next week against the 49ers. This whole thing, by the way, just should hammer home the fact that don't listen to these stupid offseason narratives. People are going to be talking and talking and talking, and there's going to be so much that bounces around the echo chambers of Twitter about so many different things. One of the things was, oh, the Seahawks, they're going to be great this year because they had a couple of good draft picks. They're an ascending stock that the 49ers, will struggle to keep up with. Well, the Seahawks go out and they get their asses kicked 30-13 by the Rams to start the regular season. The most likely path is the one that is easiest charted. It's Occam's razor, right? The simplest solution is almost always the correct one. And the 49ers were the dominant team in the NFC West last season. I would say that they might have been the dominant team in the NFC last season if Brock Purdy hadn't gotten hurt against the Philadelphia Eagles, but that's a debate that we can solve at another time. Basically, they were the class of their division, and they only got better because they added Javon Hargrave. They still have a chance to get better because they have $42 million in cap space right now. So, the 49ers have all these things going for them. The idea that somehow Seattle was going to magically usurp them, despite the fact that the 49ers added the top defensive free agent on the market, were returning a quarterback in Brock Purdy, who was already damn good last year for his second season. Despite all this good stuff happening for the 49ers, that the fact that Seattle somehow, without doing anything really that would, on paper leapfrog the 49ers, make them leapfrog the 49ers, it was all just pleasant fiction. It was pure fantasy. What you saw here today is more in line with what the reality is, and that's that the 49ers have a really damn good roster. The 49ers were able to dominate this game even though they committed 11 penalties. It wasn't a perfect performance by any stretch of the imagination. Colton McKivitz really struggled. That's an issue at right tackle. But, I would say that TJ Watt makes a lot of teams feel that they have issues at right tackle. So I'm going to pump the brakes and I'm not going to pile on. I'm going to wait to see if Colton McKivitz gets better here throughout the next couple of weeks, because I think that's exactly how the 49ers are going to play this. They have until the trade deadline to figure out if they want to do something with all this cap money that they freed up, the $42 million, and I'll pop that article up on the screen in a little bit. But by no means a perfect performance for the 49ers. But when you can dominate, even when it's not perfect, against the team that everybody was hyping up because they had 5 good preseason possessions with the first team offense, whatever that is. When you can do that, you've proven that you're a solid team, you're a contender. The 49ers don't need to do much to prove anything. They've been to 3 of the past 4 NFC championships. In that stretch, they've been to a Super Bowl. This is an established team with pedigree. All they have to do is go out there, perform well, show us that they are who they have been in the past, and then we can see if they can take the next step here in 2023. And the 49ers started this season by doing just that. They showed us that they're still a juggernaut. They still got a lot of talent, and now we'll see if they're ready to take that next step into 2023. Rams are next week. Note here, and I'm going to go through a lot of the keys to the game that I put up earlier, and we'll see how the 49ers handled each one. But Drake Jackson is a guy. I mean, 3 sacks. You don't get 3 sacks by accident. Now, he's playing on a line with Nick Bosa getting chipped, getting double-teamed, all that. He's playing on a line with Javon Hargrave. Welcome to San Francisco for Javon Hargrave. A sack today late in the game. One of the 49ers, 5 sacks. He's playing on a line with Eric Armstead dominating people. If there were ever a platform for a young defensive end to excel and build confidence and work his way into NFL success, it is here with the 49ers. Again, Bosa, Hargrave, not far behind prime Aaron Donald as far as pass rushing effectiveness. When you look at the pass rush win rate that Javon Hargrave has put up the last couple of years, this guy's really damn good when it comes to rushing the passer. Obviously, Bosa's at the top of the game. Eric Armstead, I mean, you can be a box score hound all you want, but if you know the game and you know what to look for, I think even if you don't know the game, you could see that Eric Armstead has a massive impact on the line. Well, Drake Jackson gets to play next to those guys, and those guys are going to get a lot of blocking attention from opposing offenses. And that's where it could really, really come in handy for somebody like Drake Jackson. He might not see a double team for this entire season. And today, he capitalized with those 3 sacks. He's bigger. He might be a little bit faster, I'm not sure, but he's maintained his speed despite being bigger. And you know what? Nick Bosa today said that over the course of his holdout back in Florida, Nick Bosa was watching Drake Jackson tape. And as he was watching the Drake Jackson tape, he noticed that Drake's attention to detail was on point. And that's what makes Nick Bosa so great. It's the hand scissors, right? All the hand placement. He's playing a chess match. He's extremely strong, extremely athletic. He's built, like a Greek statue. We know all this about Nick Bosa, but there are a lot of guys in the NFL who are specimens, who can't do what Nick Bosa does. And the reason that he does what he does is because he is so technically sound. He's perfect with his hands. He wins those matchups with his hands. That's what the 49ers have wanted to see from Drake Jackson as far as growth in year 2. And with the 3 sacks today, I think that they saw that. So anyway, let's go back to the keys to the game. Remember I asked, will the 49ers beat the Steelers? Well, the answer was yes on that front. But let's go to key 1. Win the Bully Ball Bowl. Oh, well. So it wasn't a clear 100% decisive victory. The Steelers got their punches in here. 3 sacks for TJ Watt, but they all came against Colton McKivitz. The rest of the 49ers offensive line held up remarkably well. Brock Purdy also escaped some pressure today when he needed to. I mean, one of the biggest twists in the weirdness that has been the 49ers quarterback situation over the past few years is that Trey Lance, here, I'm going to mention Trey Lance, but I don't want to mention him right now. Brock Purdy is actually a faster scrambler than Trey Lance, even though the 49ers drafted Trey Lance to be a dual threat quarterback. So here we had Purdy darting around on the field. That last run that he had, probably putting himself into a little bit of danger that wasn't necessary with the 49ers up by so much, but he looked like Steve Young. I mean, the way that he was still faking the pass. He was still maintaining his option of passing. He was keeping the defense paralyzed with his eyes. I mean, it was advanced level stuff from Brock Purdy. And the burst, we've talked about it, the short area burst is elite. He helps his offensive line out. So even if there are some losses up front, the 49ers can make up for them because of Purdy's instincts and his twitch at the line of scrimmage. But anyway, some losses that he wasn't able to make up for came via Colton McKivitz. And they were just blow-bys from TJ Watt. And I'd be lying if I said that it's not concerning. But again, it's TJ Watt. The 49ers are going to let this play out. They have the resources to potentially make a move if this becomes situation critical week after week after week. But we shouldn't jump to big conclusions about any individual player, especially Colton McKivitz after he had to face TJ Watt after 1 week. Just too soon to do something like that. So that's the only spot along the lines where I thought the 49ers didn't win the Bully Ball Bowl. And we know that Pittsburgh is a bully ball team. We know the 49ers are a bully ball team. Well, I think the 49ers are the real bullies here. I mean, Christian McCaffrey, here's a stat for you, 152 yards and 6.9 per carry. And yes, he had the 65-yarder, but the 65-yarder counts. And I wrote about the 65-yard touchdown, and I talked about how it was absolutely perfect execution on the 49ers' part from a blocking perspective. That's going to be up on The Athletic shortly. As soon as that's up, we will put that up on the screen. I want to put a bunch of stuff up on the screen today. I'm on my phone, but I have the computer here. So maybe we can get this up on the screen. Or Mike, if you're, that'd be nice. Mike, if you're available to put a couple of those things up on the screen, that could help. If you're not, let me know and I'll get to it and we'll be good. So the 49ers win the Bully Ball Bowl. 6.9 per carry for McCaffrey. Purdy actually ran for 20 yards, as I see here. And on the other side, Najee Harris, 31 rushing yards. I mean, the 49ers pushed the Steelers out of this game early. They weren't really able to run. Najee's long run, the 24-yarder, so 24 of his 31 yards came on that one toward the end of the first half, where Dialmaro Lenore picked up the very questionable personal foul flag. 49ers shut down the run today. There was a play early on where Fred Warner just obliterated Najee Harris crossing over the line of scrimmage. And it was like, okay, 49ers have come to play. I mean, the first 5 drives, those 3 and outs, you saw this 49ers defense and you're like, wow. I mean, this is the same 49ers defense that we see when it's healthy, at its peak of all these seasons. I mean, we've seen a lot of good seasons from this unit now, but it looked like that with, a little bit extra to it. Looked like they're flexing their muscles a little bit more than they usually do. And that was evidenced by the fact that the Steelers had 1 yard at like the 1 minute mark of the second quarter. Mike just sent me a picture. I'll put this up on the screen. Yeah, we say that, when the Bully Ball Bowl is critical. Well, let me show you a little something about how the 49ers won the Bully Ball Bowl. I think I could do this. I'm running my laptop concurrent with my iPhone, which is the video camera right now. And Mike made it cool. Okay, cool. We're almost there. Mike made a really neat image that I think pertains to what we're talking about right now. So when the 49ers play Pittsburgh, this kind of stuff happens. At left is today. At right is 4 years ago. Kyle Juszczyk against Minkah Fitzpatrick shortly after Minkah had been traded from Miami to Pittsburgh. And today, well, that is Brandon Ayuk working downfield, laying out the block for Christian McCaffrey. The 49ers receivers block more viciously than any wideout core in the game. It is central to what the 49ers do. And, Pittsburgh and these teams in the AFC North, they can talk about being hard-nosed just because of what division they're in. But I think that the 49ers, until proven otherwise, are clearly the biggest bruisers in the NFL. I mean, the way that they emphasize the run game, the way that they emphasize perimeter blocking, you saw it on the Christian McCaffrey touchdown with Brandon Ayuk charging out in front, with Ray McCloud coming in from the opposite side. I wrote an entire article on just this play. And one thing that is going to be really cool in that article that you'll glean from a schematic standpoint is that Brandon Ayuk was actually asked to do 2 things. The first was a down block or a fake down block against Alex Highsmith, who's a defensive end. And Brandon Ayuk held his own for about a second or 2, and then he sprung out, and within 4 seconds, I timed it. Within 4 seconds, Brandon Ayuk was 15 yards downfield doing what we saw here. So there's no other offense in the NFL that's asking its wide receivers to execute at least the start of a down block against a defensive end near the line of scrimmage, and then 4 seconds later do this 15 yards downfield. It's almost like Brandon Ayuk was in 2 places at once. So the 49ers won the Bully Ball Bowl. And I think, this image right here is, and they won it against Pittsburgh in 2019 as well. I don't think as decisively as today, but the image on the left of Brandon Ayuk is very, very emblematic of that. Key 2. Hold serve versus TJ Watt with Colton McKivitz and help. Funny enough, I don't think that the 49ers executed this key all too well. The good news is that they executed every other key well. But again, TJ Watt, 3 sacks against Colton McKivitz. This is an issue. The good news is the 49ers don't have to play TJ Watt every week. That being said, you know the Rams are going to try to do some stuff to expose Colton McKivitz next week, and we should keep a close eye on what opponents try to do to the 49ers. So, the fact the 49ers won the game 30-7 despite failing key 2 says a lot about this football team and how well they played overall, offense, defense, and special teams, to be able to overcome such a glaring fracture point. Key 3, beware of Minkah Fitzpatrick. Well, they didn't flatten Minkah Fitzpatrick like Kyle Juszczyk did 4 years ago, but the 49ers definitely kept Minkah Fitzpatrick from being a factor in the Steelers' direction in this game plan. In fact, on the play at left, when Brandon Ayuk is flattening a different DB, Trent Williams eliminated Minkah Fitzpatrick in the C gap. That's the 65-yard touchdown run for Christian McCaffrey. Every single 49er put a hat on that play. It was one of the most impressive run plays that we've seen in Kyle Shanahan's tenure. From McCaffrey's run, which included a spin move, a cutback, and a dive into the end zone, to the blocking, which included Spencer Burford taking out Cole Holcomb, who was a linebacker. That was 4 to 5 yards downfield. That took tremendous athleticism. You saw 3 other linemen take out defensive linemen. And then you saw Trent Williams, who's 111 pounds heavier than Minkah Fitzpatrick. So he shouldn't be able to do this. Minkah should be able to be quicker than somebody who's 111 pounds heavier than him. Trent Williams ate up Minkah Fitzpatrick in space. So, A, Brock Purdy was aware of Minkah, who had 6 interceptions to lead the league last year. Made sure he didn't throw a pick to him. B, the 49ers eliminated Minkah Fitzpatrick in the run game. That was a key, well executed. Key 4, Nick Bosa exposed Pittsburgh's offensive weaknesses, the tackles. Well, I think this is a success. Nick Bosa didn't have any sacks, but Drake Jackson had 3. The 49ers had 5 total sacks. They exposed that offensive line. And even if Bosa doesn't register anything on the stat sheet, he's still impacting the game. He absorbed so many chips today, so many double teams. But again, if Drake Jackson, this is why we talk about the bookend to Nick Bosa being so important for this 49ers team. And Nick said it didn't surprise him that Drake was going to emerge because he saw the details that he was working with on tape in practice. Well, here we go. Drake Jackson emerged today. 3 sacks. The 49ers exposed the Pittsburgh weakness that are their offensive tackles. And key number 5, keep the explosiveness difference in your favor if you're the 49ers. And I think the 49ers definitely kept the explosiveness difference in their favor. There were a couple bigger passing plays for Pittsburgh, but there were mainly plays where the 49ers just had super big cushions. They played like almost a prevent style defense there at the end of the first half that didn't really work out too well for them. And there wasn't really any over-the-top explosiveness from Pittsburgh. I talked about the Steelers being the number 32, the dead last-ranked yak offense last year. There wasn't much yak last year. So the 49ers held the explosiveness advantage on paper because they were the top yak offense. They were the number 5 explosive rate offense, and they maintained it. I mean, explosive plays are the plays like the Christian McCaffrey run, and explosive plays can also be the intermediates that Brock Purdy connects on. Brock Purdy last year delivered the most accurate season on NFL record, and this goes back through PFF's records for about 2 decades, 25 years. Brock Purdy delivered the most accurate season on record on throws that traveled 10 to 20 air yards downfield, so intermediate throws. Today, Brock Purdy was damn near perfect on intermediate throws, and those can often turn into explosives because the 49ers are so good after the catch. So you saw Brandon Ayuk obviously capitalize on those. 8 catches, 129 yards. Deebo Samuel, 5 catches, 55 yards. I mean, both of these guys were making hay downfield in crucial situations. Early on, the 49ers were moving the chains on a lot of third downs. I could look to see what their conversion rate was. Total was 6 of 13, so it's good, but it's not great. But I think that some later punts are factored in. Earlier in the game, 49ers churning, and they were churning explosively enough too, especially against who they were playing. I mean, this was no lazy Steelers defense. This was a really good defensive front. TJ Watt was on the other end. A cadre of quality edge rushers was on the other end, and the 49ers still managed to get the job done. All right, so we have a little video from Brock Purdy here for you. And guess what? I have some news from the game, which I'll be able to divulge as soon as we play this Patrick. I just spilled the beans. It's about Patrick Peterson. Patrick Peterson did not have an interception, even though he promised that he would get one. Now let's listen to Brock Purdy talking about Patrick Peterson.
At first, no, I wasn't thinking about any of that. BA was open. He did a great job on the route and got him the ball, scored a touchdown. And then the second touchdown on the right side, the deep ball. Was that on Patrick Peterson? Yeah, and that one, I was like, all right, that felt good. But it was good, man. He's a competitor. I have nothing but respect for Patrick Peterson and everything that he does. So.
Well, as we covered, Brock Purdy knew Patrick Peterson from his days growing up in Arizona. Brock Purdy won the high school player of the year, got to meet then Arizona Cardinals cornerback Patrick Peterson. And then this week, Patrick Peterson said he was going to intercept Brock Purdy. He said that the 49ers were giving off a bunch of tells. To Peterson's credit, he had 2 pass breakups in the first quarter. Maybe the tell was that the 49ers like to throw the ball over the middle. Nice plays by Peterson, but again, they victimized him on the Brandon Ayuk touchdowns. Ayuk broke Peterson's ankles on the first touchdown, little in route. That was on that end zone, the one going this way. And then on the end zone right behind me, Brandon Ayuk won the toss-up. And it was a back shoulder throw. It was a perfect throw from Brock Purdy, but it was still a toss-up. You got to get both feet inbounds barely. And that was a little trolling in response from Brock Purdy to the media and to Patrick Peterson. He said, "Oh wait, was that that touchdown against Patrick Peterson? Oh yeah, it was." There you go. Patrick Peterson will hear that. That's what he gets from Brock Purdy for predicting an interception that didn't come. Instead, he gave up 2 touchdowns. So the 49ers scores in this game were the 2 Ayuk touchdowns, the Christian McCaffrey 65-yard run, and then 3 Jake Moody field goals. Jake Moody became the first rookie kicker to go 3 for 3 on field goals in his NFL debut since Justin Tucker. So you talk about a game where everything went right for the 49ers. Well, not everything here, but every phase of the game did a lot of stuff well. We'll put it that way. The offense obviously run blocked very well. Purdy played well. The receivers were good. Kittle was good. That was great for the offense. The defense was smothering. All 3 levels did good stuff. And then special teams. I mean, there was a big question about Brock Purdy. Is Brock going to there was a big question about Jake Moody, not Brock Purdy, about Jake Moody. The questions about Brock Purdy were answered too. About Jake Moody, is he going to be able to pick up the torch, or is the NFL game going to be too big for him? Are we going to see a little bit more of that 0 for 2 that we saw in week 1 of the preseason against the Las Vegas Raiders from Jake Moody? And Mike Tomlin and the Steelers, they definitely wanted Jake Moody to cough it up like he did in week 1 of the preseason. They even tried to ice him twice. That's what Josh McDaniels did back in the preseason. The icing didn't work in this game. Moody drilled the field goals each time, first from 41, then from 32, then from 40. They weren't overly hard field goals, but it was exactly what the 49ers wanted to start Jake Moody's career, start building that confidence. I thought Mitch Wishnowsky punted very well. Ray McLeod, the former Steeler, used to play out here, was really good in the return game today. I mean, offense, defense, special teams, complementary effort, championship-level football for the 49ers. I would say that the rushing attack looked like it was in midseason form today, especially when you consider that excellent run from Christian McCaffrey and all of the great blocking that happened. And, you know, when you put everything in context, the 49ers in recent seasons have struggled out of the gate. I mean, in 2021, they won their season opener at Detroit, but in 2022, they lost at Chicago. Both seasons, they started 3-4. It cost them in the playoffs both times because they didn't get the home field advantage in the number 1 seed. A big theme this year has been starting fast. And today, they started against a better team than either of the past 2 seasons. The Steelers are a lot better than last year's Bears and a lot better than the 2021 Lions. And the 49ers put a whooping on the Steelers. They won 30-7. It is definitely a step forward for the 49ers as far as starts go. And I think that they set a tone. And, you know, speaking of setting a tone, I thought that they set the tone on the very first drive. 4th down, it's really loud. No quarterback sneak. They lined up in the gun, right? And Brock Purdy And they go for it, obviously. Brock Purdy finds George Kittle in the pass. I thought that might have set the tone for the whole season. So, will the 49ers beat the Steelers? Yes. And they not only beat the Steelers, the 49ers handed the Steelers the worst home loss of the Mike Tomlin era. And Mike Tomlin's been the coach for a while, over a decade now. They've never lost to a team under Mike Tomlin worse than they lost to the 49ers on this field tonight. So that doesn't show you that this 49ers team put together a legit effort. I don't think that anything will. I mean, this was one of those games today that the 49ers flexed their muscles in. Now, the question is, are the 49ers going to be able to carry this forward into the rest of the regular season? And they stayed healthy today. I think they say they examined Ambry Thomas for a concussion. He went into the protocol, but he passed it. So, you know, in a game like this, you're always afraid that, yeah, you get the win, but you might lose a body or two for a few weeks. 49ers might have skated free out of Pittsburgh, which, you know, that doesn't always happen in these early body clock starts on the East Coast. Nobody's talking about the fact this game started at 10 a.m. Pacific time because the 49ers came out wide awake, hungry, not sluggish at all, ready to pounce, and they won 30-7. So all around, extremely impressive performance. I'm going to show you one thing here as we tease forward to the rest of the week. I think I'll probably come on live again one more time tonight after Sunday Night Football, so you could stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, I would like if you checked this out. Out here in Pittsburgh last night, I sacrificed my Saturday night to write you a Nick Bosa contract analysis. And it comes in really handy now because basically through the Nick Bosa contract and through the restructures for Kittle, Armstead, and Trent Williams, the 49ers pushed their chips in on their veteran core. They recommitted to their veteran core, which includes this guy up on the screen. And they recommitted to their veteran core for a simple reason, because of what you saw out on that field today. They think these guys can continue to dominate for at least 2 more years and preferably 3. So why not push more money into them? Why not restructure those deals to open up cap space now? Why not start gunning for the last step toward that Super Bowl, right? They're so close. Why not take that last step? That's what the financial moves were all about this past week. That's what the Bosa move was all about. I break it down in as much detail as you'll see anywhere. So I'm about to toss that link into the description. It's only $1 a month for The Athletic. This is great reading for you. Plus my story that just zooms in, and that's going to be up in a few minutes. It just zooms in on all the intricacies, blocking wise, of Christian McCaffrey's 65-yard touchdown run. Between these two pieces, I think you're going to have a bigger understanding of 49ers football, both in the big picture and the minute details than you had before you read them. And that is the goal. Anyway, 49ers today, they beat the Steelers 30-7. This is title contender stuff from Pittsburgh. It's been a fantastic time in Pittsburgh. I think tomorrow I'm going to go around to see some famous Pittsburgh pizza places while I cover the aftermath of this game. So stay tuned for there. For that, I'm going to have some good food content to go along with the football content tomorrow. We'll be writing some good stuff. Subscribe to The Athletic. Obviously, sub to the channel. I think that we just hit 44K, so that's all great news. And I'll talk to you probably a little bit later tonight, so you can hit that sub button and hit the alarm bell as well. Talk to you soon.